Before we get into the laws of motion, I want to introduce myself. My name's Tanner Holt. I have more than 10 years in marketing experience. I consider myself a sales and marketing engineer, helping companies being able to have triple digit growth year over year, as well as helping other local clients through site testing being able to add $2,000 to their monthly revenue. Now, along with working, I enjoy running Spartans, spending time with my family, and supporting local businesses, particularly trying new restaurants as well as going to the locals farmers market. So, the first law we're going to talk about is the law of inertia. Now, this first law by Isaac Newton states, objects will remain at a rest or in a uniform motion in a straight line unless acted upon by an external or an unbalanced force. So what does this mean for marketing? So first of all, we got to understand a little bit about what inertia is. And a good example of this is a flywheel. If you haven't, please go to HubSpot and look up their flywheel methodology. A flywheel is a circle or that can rotate, and when you spin it, it will constantly spin until there's something that is put up against it to stop it. That is the whole point of inertia. The idea is that something's going to go as long and as far as possible until there's something that gets in its way, as long as there's something that pushed it. And it's the same thing with our marketing. In order to get this marketing flywheel spinning, we need to push it. Now, the thing that we see with most marketing agencies is there's a lot of things that go into running a marketing and sales plan, and most businesses don't have the capacity or knowledge to go through and do every little thing. And that's where we come in and we help you by just first of all getting started. Now, there are a few things that we like to do when we start working with a client. So the first thing is we're going to tell you that we want you to keep doing what you're already doing because there's no point in stopping and losing any momentum that you already might have. Now, the next part is we want to really clarify your vision. Before we start pushing your flywheel in some direction, we want to make sure it's the right direction. How we do this is we meet with you, we figure out what your goals are for you and your company for the next 2 to 3 years, 6 months, whatever term you're thinking that you'd like to work with us for. After that, we'll conduct a simple analysis and a holistic audit of your business. Now, we look at everything from the beginning of when you first start prospecting customers all the way to the end when they've already bought or used your product or service and left reviews, and if they're going through that funnel again. We even look at your internal processes such as billing, customer service, and support. The reason we look at all of these is we're trying to identify points of friction and acceleration. Points of friction, for example, are going to be anything that can slow down your growth. This could be that leads aren't getting to your sales team in the right amount of time for them to respond quickly before a prospect loses interest. It could be local laws and regulations, and in some cases it may even be your competition or a feature of your product. Now, I do want to clarify a little bit between acceleration and force. We're going to talk about force more in the second law of motion, but the most important thing about acceleration is the capacity to move faster. For things like that, it could be putting more money into ads and running more ads, building out more content on your website. It could be having your sales team send more emails or conduct more cold calls. These are all points that you can use to increase in your acceleration. Generally, some other points of friction that you may have when looking at trying to accelerate a project is going to be the limited time and resources that you can put into it. Once we gather all of these points of friction and areas where we can look at accelerating, we're going to prioritize them and what we think is going to have the most impact for your business. We'll review them with you, align it with your vision, and create a wish list and start going from the top and making a plan so we can start acting. And that's the biggest part of the law, the first law and inertia, is actually getting the ball rolling and starting. Now, the second law of motion we like to call the law of force. It simply states acceleration of an object depends on mass of the object and the amount of force applied. Now, like we said, there is a difference between force and acceleration. If we look here, force is equal to mass times acceleration, or the ability that it can move. And I like to think of mass as how much it's going to take to get the project going. And once it's going, for example, once you get a marketing engine, it can take a lot of work to build a database from 0 contacts to 1,000 contacts, from 1,000 contacts to over a couple 100,000. Now, it's a lot of work to do that, but once you get that big of a database, that momentum's continually going to grow and go faster for you, and you won't have to put as much force into that as long as you have your systems running. So how we start with the second law of motion is first we start with your launchpad projects. We start at the very top and go down, so we're starting and we're getting everything going. Now, the reason we call them a launchpad project is because for most of these projects, we're looking at projects that we can scale in the future, and we can start with a very bare bones project. For example, your website. Instead of spending months and months on end to get a perfect website that you're going to have leave stagnant for 2 or 3 years and then decide to redo it again, we're going to get the very bare essentials so that it looks good. Now, we don't want to go down and skimp anywhere that it doesn't look as high quality. We want to make sure it still has good performance, but we want it just to start. And then we're going to start some other projects. And then eventually we're going to look at these projects and we're going to weight which ones are going to have the most effort when we tweak or build them, so you can continuously prove and build momentum off these Launchpad websites and projects. Now, the other thing is with force is you don't stop. You just adjust your force. One of the biggest things that we see, especially when it comes to search engine optimizations, is clients get to the top of the rankings, they're seeing the traffic they want, so they decide to stop, and then within 2 or 3 months their competition has taken over and they have to start back and they have to put even more force just to get back going where they were. If you get to where you want, we recommend that you just adjust your force. Don't stop doing anything. Maybe just slow down a little bit. And then the last part is regularly check your direction. A lot of companies start going, especially companies with multiple revenue streams, they start seeing success on one and forget about the other and realize that the other one is where they're going to get a lot more revenue, and that's what's going to take them ultimately to get to that vision that they created before. So the third and last law of motion is the law of action and reactions. It states that for every action there is an equal and an opposite reaction. So what does this mean? Really, this is the highlight of being able to put all that force. I like to think of it in the last picture, we saw that person trying to figure as much force as they could to push that flywheel up a hill. And this is the point where if everything's running smoothly, you can actually have that flywheel start going downhill. And like a snowball going down a mountain, it'll start continually growing and getting mass all on its own without you having to apply more force. Now, there are a lot of really good benefits. For example, we talked about customer and database growth. Now, the problem with customer and database growth is you have to go through and might have to apply a little bit more force in making sure that your CRM hygiene is good and that it's quality data. The next part is the bigger your database gets, the more influence and press you're going to get. Now, this is really good because the more press that you get, the more free advertising you're getting. However, it also runs the chance of getting negative press, which in the end could actually hurt and cause more friction to your flywheel. And then lastly, customer promotion and reviews. It's really great when that flywheel gets spinning. You're going to get customers that are going to start promoting and talking about your product, word of mouth, and even leaving reviews. And that will lead to other people and new customers joining your business, and that momentum will continue to go and grow and grow. The problem with that too is if you do have a customer who has a bad experience, they're more likely to share that bad experience. So there you have it. Those are the 3 laws of motion. The first is the law of inertia. The second is the law of force. And then lastly, we have the law of action and reactions. So please contact us, fill out a form. This is how we run a lot of our strategies with these guiding principles and others. So please talk to one of our sales reps so we can see how we can apply the laws of motion to your business and get you the momentum you need.